You're about to scroll past this. I can feel it. Your thumb is already moving, your mind already dismissing what it hasn't even heard yet. But what if I told you that this exact moment, this precise urge to skip, is the very pattern that's been keeping you locked in the same reality loop for years? What if the thing you're about to avoid is actually the key you've been searching for? This isn't coincidence. You didn't stumble upon this message randomly. The quantum field doesn't work that way. Energy follows attention, and your attention found this frequency at exactly 11:11 on the cosmic clock, because something deeper than your conscious mind knows you're ready. Ready for what? Ready to finally break the pattern that's been running your life on autopilot. You see, there's something most people don't understand about manifestation, about quantum reality, about why some people seem to effortlessly attract what they want, while others chase endlessly and never quite grasp it. It's not about thinking harder or wanting more intensely. It's about something far more subtle, something that happens in the space between thoughts, in the pause between breaths, in the moment when you resist the urge to keep moving and finally allow yourself to receive. But here's what's fascinating. The very impulse that brought you here, that restless energy, that need to keep scrolling, keep searching, keep consuming content, that's exactly what's been blocking you from receiving what you actually want. You've been living in what I call the seeking frequency, a vibrational state where you're perpetually in motion, but never actually arriving anywhere. Think about it. How many videos have you watched about manifestation? How many articles about personal growth? How many times have you felt inspired for a moment, only to find yourself back in the same patterns days later? That's because inspiration without integration is just another form of entertainment. And integration can't happen when you're constantly moving to the next thing. Your nervous system has been conditioned to believe that the answer is always somewhere else, in the next video, the next book, the next technique. But what if the answer isn't in getting more information? What if it's in finally stopping long enough to embody the wisdom you already have access to? This is where quantum physics becomes profoundly practical. In quantum mechanics, we know that the observer affects the observed. Your state of being literally influences what possibilities collapse into your reality. But here's the thing. If you're always in seeking mode, always grasping, always moving towards something, you're broadcasting a frequency of lack, of not having, of needing to get somewhere else to be complete. The universe, this quantum field of infinite possibility, responds to your energetic state, not your mental wishes. And if your energetic state is one of constant motion, constant seeking, constant not enoughness, then that's exactly what gets reflected back to you. More seeking, more not enough, more almost, but not quite. But right now, in this moment, you have the opportunity to interrupt this pattern. Not by doing more, but by doing less. Not by adding another technique to your arsenal, but by finally mastering the art of reception. Because reception, true quantum reception, requires stillness. It requires the courage to stop running from yourself long enough to let what's meant for you actually land. Let me share something that might shift your entire understanding of how reality works. Every desire you have, every goal, every dream, it already exists in the quantum field as pure potential. The question isn't whether it's possible. The question is whether you're vibrationally aligned to receive it. And alignment isn't something you achieve through force or effort. It's something you allow through surrender, through stillness, through what I call conscious stopping. Conscious stopping is different from just being passive or lazy. It's an active choice to interrupt the momentum of seeking and create space for receiving. It's recognizing that the energy you've been using to chase your desires is the same energy that's been pushing them away. Here's your first quantum shift. Right now, as you feel that familiar urge to move on to the next thing, to check your phone, to scroll away, pause. Just for 60 seconds. Place your hand on your heart and breathe. Not because breathing is magical, but because conscious breathing creates coherence between your heart and brain. It literally shifts your nervous system out of seeking mode and into receiving mode. And as you breathe, say this quietly to yourself. I am ready to receive. Not, I am trying to manifest or I am working toward my goals. Simply, I am ready to receive. This single phrase rewrites your relationship with the quantum field. It tells your entire system that you're no longer chasing, you're no longer in lack, you're no longer somewhere else trying to get somewhere else. You're here, now, open. Do this practice for 3 days. Every time you feel the urge to skip, to scroll, to move on to the next thing, pause, breathe, and whisper, I am ready to receive. Watch what happens. Not in some dramatic, life-changing way, but in the small things. Watch how synchronicities begin to show up. Watch how the right conversation happens at the right time. Watch how resources you need become available. This isn't mystical thinking. This is quantum mechanics in action. Now let me explain why this works at the deepest level. Quantum entanglement tells us that particles can be instantaneously connected across vast distances. When one particle changes its state, its entangled partner immediately mirrors that change. Your desires, your goals, your dreams, they're quantum entangled with you. But the connection only activates when you're in a state of coherence, not chaos. The constant seeking, the endless scrolling, the perpetual motion, this creates quantum chaos. Your signal becomes scattered, unclear, contradictory. But when you consciously stop, when you create space, when you shift into receiving mode, you create quantum coherence. Your signal becomes clear, focused, undeniable. Most people are broadcasting static to the universe and wondering why they're not getting clear responses. They're trying to manifest from a state of internal noise, and noise creates more noise. But clarity creates clarity. Stillness creates movement. Reception creates manifestation. Here's where this gets really interesting, and where most manifestation teaching misses the mark completely. Your conscious mind thinks it knows what you want, but your consciousness is operating on levels far beyond just thought. There's a deeper intelligence within you, what quantum biologists call your morphic field, that knows exactly what's in alignment with your highest good. But this deeper intelligence communicates through whispers, not shouts, through subtle nudges, not obvious signs. And these whispers can only be heard when the mental noise quiets down. When you stop long enough to actually listen to the intelligence that's been trying to guide you all along. Take a moment and share in the comments below. When was the last time you received one of these whispers, one of those subtle knowings that felt different from regular thoughts? What was it telling you, and did you follow it? This is why the practice of conscious stopping is so powerful. It's not just about receiving what you think you want. It's about becoming available to receive what your deeper wisdom knows you need. And often, what you need is far greater than what you think you want. So here's your second quantum shift. Every morning, before you reach for your phone, before you jump into the day's momentum, sit in stillness for just 60 seconds. Place one hand on your heart, one hand on your belly, and breathe slowly. As you breathe, say internally, I am here. I am present. I am not running today. This simple practice creates what neuroscientists call neural coherence. Your heart rate variability becomes rhythmic, your brain waves synchronize, and your entire nervous system shifts into a state that's optimized for receiving insight, opportunity, and synchronicity. You're literally tuning your biological radio to the frequency of flow rather than force. Do this for 1 week and watch how differently your days unfold. Not because you're doing more, but because you're being more present. Not because you're pushing harder, but because you're allowing more. Time begins to feel different. Opportunities become more obvious. The right people show up at the right moments. But here's what I want you to understand at the deepest level. This isn't about getting more stuff or achieving more goals. This is about stepping into your authentic power as a conscious creator. Because true manifestation isn't about manipulating reality to get what you want. It's about aligning so deeply with your authentic self that reality naturally reflects your deepest truth. Most people are trying to manifest from their personality, from their ego, from their ideas about what they should want based on what others have or what society values. But your personality is just the tip of the iceberg. Your consciousness extends far beyond your personal identity into what quantum physicists call the unified field, the space where all possibilities exist simultaneously. When you practice conscious stopping, when you create space for reception, you're not just opening to receive things. You're opening to receive insights from your deeper self, guidance from your intuitive wisdom, downloads from the unified field itself. You're remembering that you're not separate from the creative intelligence of the universe. You are that intelligence, expressing itself through your unique perspective. And this is where trust becomes essential. Because your deeper wisdom often guides you in directions your personality wouldn't choose. It might whisper about a conversation you need to have that feels scary. It might nudge you toward an opportunity that doesn't make logical sense. It might ask you to let go of something you've been holding on to tightly. Your personality wants guarantees. It wants to know exactly how things will unfold before taking any action. But quantum reality doesn't work that way. In the quantum field, possibilities exist in superposition, multiple potential outcomes simultaneously present, until the moment of conscious observation collapses them into reality. This means that the path to your desires often reveals itself one step at a time, not as a complete roadmap, and taking that next step requires trust. Trust in the whispers of your deeper knowing. Trust in the intelligence that's orchestrating synchronicities behind the scenes. Trust that you're being guided even when you can't see the full picture. So here's your third quantum shift. And this one might feel uncomfortable because it asks you to move when your mind wants certainty. When you receive a whisper, and you'll know it because it feels different from mental chatter. It feels more like knowing than thinking. Act on it quickly. Don't analyze it to death. Don't wait for confirmation from 5 different sources. Don't talk yourself out of it with logic. Take the action the whisper suggests, even if it's small. Send the message. Make the call. Sign up for the class. Apply for the position. Book the trip. Whatever the guidance is, follow it before your mind can create 1,000 reasons why you shouldn't. This is how you build trust with your intuitive guidance system. Not through big, dramatic leaps, but through small acts of faith. Each time you honor the whisper, your confidence in your inner knowing grows. Each time you act on subtle guidance and see it lead to something meaningful, you strengthen your connection to the quantum field of intelligence that's always available to guide you. But here's what's crucial to understand. The whispers don't always lead where your personality expects them to. Sometimes following your intuitive guidance leads to apparent detours, to what look like mistakes, to outcomes that seem opposite of what you wanted. But trust the process. Trust that your deeper wisdom sees a bigger picture than your conscious mind can grasp. What pattern or old story are you finally ready to release to make space for this new way of being? Drop it in the comments. Sometimes naming what we're letting go of gives us the power to actually release it. I remember working with someone who felt guided to quit a job she loved, to pursue something that made no logical sense. Her mind was terrified, but the whisper was consistent and clear. She followed it, and for months it seemed like a mistake. She struggled financially, doubted herself constantly, wondered if she'd misinterpreted the guidance. But then, through a connection she made during that mistake period, she discovered her true calling, something she never could have imagined from where she started. This is how quantum navigation works. You can't see the whole path from where you are now. You can only see the next step. But each step, when taken in trust, reveals the step after that. And gradually, what seemed like random movements begin to form a pattern, a direction, a destiny that's far more beautiful than anything your conscious mind could have planned. Take a moment right now and comment below with this exact phrase: I trust the whispers of my deeper knowing. I want you to make this declaration not just to me, but to the quantum field itself. Because when you speak something out loud, when you declare it publicly, you're collapsing possibility into probability. You're telling the universe that you're serious about this transformation. This isn't just engagement with a YouTube video. This is you energetically signing up for a new way of being. This is you putting your stake in the ground and saying, I'm ready to live differently. And when enough people make this same declaration, we create what Rupert Sheldrake calls a morphic field, a pattern of consciousness that makes it easier for others to access the same state. Now here's where everything we've discussed begins to integrate into a completely new way of moving through reality. Because once you've learned to pause instead of rush, once you've created space for reception, once you've begun trusting and acting on your inner guidance, something profound happens. You begin to live in what I call flow state, not as an occasional experience, but as your natural way of being. Flow state isn't just about peak performance in sports or creative activities. It's about living in alignment with the natural rhythms of creation itself. It's about moving when it's time to move and being still when it's time to be still. It's about speaking when you have something to say and listening when wisdom is trying to reach you. Most people live in resistance to these natural rhythms. They force action when the energy isn't there. They stay passive when life is calling them to step forward. They speak when they should listen and remain silent when their voice is needed. But when you're tuned into the deeper intelligence we've been discussing, you begin to feel these rhythms. You begin to sense when to engage and when to step back, when to push and when to allow. Living this way requires a fundamental shift in how you relate to time. Linear time says you should be productive every moment, achieving something, moving toward your goals. But quantum time operates differently. In quantum time, there are moments for action and moments for integration. Moments for receiving and moments for giving. Moments for expansion and moments for contraction. When you honor these natural rhythms instead of forcing yourself into artificial productivity, your effectiveness actually increases dramatically. You accomplish more by doing less, but doing it at the right time, in the right way, from the right energy. If this resonates with something deep inside you, if you feel like you've been waiting your whole life for someone to give you permission to live this way, then I invite you to subscribe not just to this channel, but to this frequency. Because what we're talking about here isn't just personal development content. It's a remembering of who you really are beneath all the conditioning, beneath all the shoulds and supposed tos, beneath all the noise. You're subscribing to your own awakening. You're saying yes to the part of you that knows there's a more elegant way to live, a more graceful way to create, a more trustworthy guidance system than the fear-based strategies you've been taught. Now let me share with you the deepest layer of what we've been exploring. Everything we've discussed, the conscious stopping, the receiving practice, the trust in whispers, the flow with natural rhythms. All of this is preparing you for what I call quantum living. And quantum living is based on a truth that will completely transform how you understand your relationship to reality. You are not separate from what you desire. This isn't metaphorical or poetic. This is quantum physics. At the deepest level of reality, the level quantum physicists call the zero-point field, there is no separation between observer and observed, between you and what you're experiencing, between your consciousness and the consciousness of the universe. Your desires aren't separate things you need to attract from outside yourself. They're aspects of your own consciousness seeking expression through your life. When you desire more love, that's your consciousness wanting to express its loving nature more fully. When you desire more abundance, that's your consciousness wanting to express its creative power more freely. When you desire more meaning, that's your consciousness wanting to express its deeper purpose more clearly. This understanding changes everything about manifestation. You're not trying to get something you don't have. You're allowing something you already are to express itself more fully. You're not manipulating reality from outside. You're allowing reality to create through you, as you. But here's the paradox. This expression can only happen through surrender, not force. Through allowing, not controlling. Through trust, not manipulation. Because the moment you try to force your consciousness to express in a particular way, you create the very separation that blocks the expression. It's like trying to make a flower bloom by pulling on its petals. The harder you pull, the more you damage the natural process. But when you create the right conditions, good soil, appropriate water, adequate light, the blooming happens naturally, effortlessly, beautifully. Your life is like that flower, and all the practices we've been discussing, the conscious stopping, the receptive breathing, the trust in guidance, the flow with natural rhythms, these create the conditions for your consciousness to express its deeper nature through your human experience. This is why the practice of stopping feels so powerful. It's not that you're being lazy or unproductive. You're creating space for your deeper nature to emerge. You're making room for inspiration to arise. You're allowing the intelligence that creates galaxies to flow through your daily decisions. And when you live this way, your life becomes a work of art. Not because everything is perfect or easy, but because everything is authentic. Every choice comes from your deepest truth. Every action carries the power of your full presence. Every relationship reflects your genuine nature. But here's where most people get confused about what authentic living actually means. They think authenticity is about expressing every emotion, speaking every thought, or following every impulse. But that's not authenticity, that's reactivity. True authenticity is about expressing your deepest nature, not your surface patterns. Your deepest nature isn't your personality with all its fears, desires, and conditioned responses. Your deepest nature is what remains when all the conditioning falls away. It's the consciousness that witnesses your thoughts without being identified with them. It's the awareness that experiences your emotions without being overwhelmed by them. It's the presence that animates your body without being limited by it. When you learn to access this deeper level of yourself, and the practices we've been exploring are designed to do exactly that, you begin to make choices from a completely different reference point. Instead of reacting from your wounds, you respond from your wisdom. Instead of being driven by your fears, you're guided by your deeper knowing. Instead of seeking to get something from life, you begin expressing something through life. This is what I call conscious creation, and it operates on principles that are completely different from what most people understand about manifestation. Most manifestation teaching focuses on techniques, visualization, affirmations, vision boards, as if reality were a machine you could manipulate with the right inputs. But reality isn't mechanical. Reality is consciousness, and consciousness responds to consciousness, not to techniques. When you try to manifest from your personality level, from your wants, fears, and limited understanding, you're essentially asking reality to comply with your small self's agenda. And sometimes it works, in a limited way. You might get some of what you think you want, but you'll also get the consequences of operating from that level of consciousness. The stress, the fear of loss, the constant need to control and maintain what you've created. But when you learn to create from your deeper nature, something entirely different happens. You begin to express possibilities that were never available to your personality. You attract experiences that transform you rather than just satisfying you. You step into a life that's not just better than what you had, but different in quality, different in essence. Let me share a story that illustrates this distinction. I once worked with a successful entrepreneur who had manifested everything his personality wanted: wealth, recognition, influence. But he was miserable. He felt empty, disconnected, like he was living someone else's life. Through the practices we've been discussing, he began to access his deeper nature, and what he discovered shocked him. His deeper wisdom wasn't interested in more business success. It was calling him towards something completely different: working with children who had experienced trauma. His personality was terrified. How could he walk away from everything he'd built? How could he start over in a field where he had no credentials, no connections, no guarantee of financial security? But the calling was undeniable, and as he began to trust it, to take small steps toward it, something magical happened. His business success, instead of disappearing, began to support this new direction. Unexpected opportunities arose for him to fund trauma recovery programs. His network, instead of abandoning him, became a resource for the work he felt called to do. His wealth became a tool for service rather than just accumulation. This is how authentic creation works. You don't manifest despite your deeper nature. You manifest through it. And what emerges is always more beautiful, more meaningful, more sustainable than anything your personality could have conceived. But this level of authenticity requires incredible courage. Because living from your deepest truth means disappointing people who prefer you to stay small. It means making choices that don't make sense to others. It means trusting your inner knowing even when external evidence suggests otherwise. More than that, it means facing the parts of yourself that you've been avoiding. Because your authentic nature isn't just light and love and positive energy. It includes your shadow, your wounds, your unintegrated aspects. True authenticity means becoming whole, not just becoming nice. Now, what I've shared with you today barely scratches the surface of what becomes possible when you learn to master your frequency transmission, when you discover how to become the conscious broadcast, rather than just receiving whatever signals happen to find you. In my complete guide, Beyond the Frequencies, I walk you through the 9 master frequencies that transform you from unconscious seeking to conscious being, showing you exactly how to shift from survival static into the ascending currents of creation itself. It's linked in the pinned comment below. This is why the journey of conscious creation often includes what feels like destruction. Old relationships that were based on who you used to be may fall away. Career paths that made sense to your smaller self may no longer feel aligned. Beliefs about yourself and the world that once provided security may crumble. But this apparent destruction is actually reconstruction. You're not losing who you are. You're shedding who you never were. You're not destroying your life. You're allowing your true life to emerge from beneath the layers of conditioning and compromise. And here's what's remarkable about this process. The more authentically you live, the more you give others permission to do the same. Your courage to be real awakens the courage in others to drop their masks. Your willingness